This is One Week Rental, a movie podcast where we spend a week with a movie and take you along on the journey. I am Matt Stokes, recovering film snob, trying not to be so obnoxious.
And I'm Laci Roth, a nostalgiaholic, blossoming into a cinephile, to my delight and against my will.
Each week we do a deep dive into a different movie. We spend the week with it, watch it multiple times, read interviews about it, research it.
Then we talk about the movie, what works, what doesn't. Do some irresponsible psychoanalysis of the characters and the people who made it.
We assume if you're watching the show, it's because you don't mind being spoiled. You've seen the movie or you don't care that we ruin it for you, because we are going to be spoiling the shit out of everything we talk about.
And everything we say comes from a place of loving movies. Even if we don't enjoy the movie, we never regret watching it. We want to celebrate it. We certainly could never make a movie of our own.
Okay, that being said, we know that we can be rude and nasty and too negative and obnoxious, and that's all true. If we criticize a movie that you love, that is okay. Tell us in the comments. Tell us why we're wrong. We'd love to hear from you. This is a discussion. We are just here because we love talking about movies and we want to have a fun discussion, but we are not experts and we get things wrong all the time.
We have no aspirations of working in Hollywood or ever making a movie, so we have no problem being 100% honest with everything we say.
And finally, Laci and I, we are married to each other.
Therefore, any inappropriate comments have already been pre-consented to.
So we spent this week with Stephen King's It, the 1990 made-for-television movie. How many times had you seen this before, Laci?
15?
15 times, wow. I'd only ever seen it the once because, of course, we covered this movie once before, all the way back in 2017.
No need to listen to that, dear viewers and listeners.
No, you don't need to do that.
No. We want to shield you.
But we really dove in this time, spent the week with Stephen King's It, and we're going to tell you all about what we learned in our history segment. All right, let's talk about the history of Stephen King's It. And this is apropos of what we were discussing in our opening, the fear monster, the monster that is just embodies fear itself. I have a quote for you, Laci, from Quentin Tarantino. 2019, he was on Eli Roth's podcast, and he said about Stephen King, he said, quote, the book It is Stephen King's ripoff of Nightmare on Elm Street. He just replaces Freddy Krueger with Pennywise. It's just exactly like he sees Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh, wow, that's good. That's a really neat idea. That's really clever. That's cool. Well, let me take that idea and do my version of it. Now his version of it is going to be a 560-page novel. Well, it's twice that long.
Way better than fucking Nightmare on Elm Street.
I disagree. He's a terrific writer in that regard. So he fills it full with minutia, and he fills it with his good prose, and he fills it full of his good writing, which is what Wes Craven didn't have. Take away all that cake frosting and all the little frosting flowers that are put on it and all that. It's basically a ripoff of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Everything's a ripoff of everything. There's only so many archetypes in this world. Quentin Tarantino, don't give me reasons to not love you.
Of all the people in the world to be saying that.
All of your work is derivative of other ideas, but you're celebrating them. I'm sorry. Stephen King can't take an idea and then celebrate the fuck out of it. Also, the timing doesn't work.
And, I know it's just a thing he said on a podcast, so maybe it's just, we say tons of shit too.
True.
But it's like, yeah, Quentin Tarantino, that's your whole career. And guess what? That's why you're great.
Yeah.
The frosting is the thing. The flowers are the thing.
Disagree. I hate frosting, but I get your point. I take your point.
A story is not a plot. A story is, how is the story told? The story of It is, I'm seeing simultaneously adults and children and knowing the continuity between them, which is why the It remakes don't work as well. But the other thing is, like, Wes Craven also didn't invent that idea. And I even think the idea that Pennywise takes on the form of what you're most afraid of, that's one of the least interesting ideas, I think.
Oh yeah, that I've never cared about that part of it.
And because when you see, like, with Richie Tozier, it's like we don't have enough time to develop his character, so he's afraid of werewolves.
Right, because we saw that movie that time.
Yeah, that is just that's a shortcut, and it's like, well, that's not as compelling.
Well, and it isn't even anything, right? Like, it had to take the form of something, so it took the most common fear, and that's the character, and it's brilliant, and I love it. But even it isn't it. It's a fucking weird spider clawed thing. Like, it's even further. Like, it's anything that you're afraid of, and it's also this clown.
Hopefully,
but it's also the spider.
Hopefully with It, Welcome to Derry, coming out on HBO this Sunday,
really
we'll finally learn, how did it decide to take the form of Pennywise the Dancing Clown / Bob Gray? Can't wait to learn that.
Because it's the best.
But, like, when King wrote the book, I know there were fucked up clowns in fiction and stuff before, but it really did. The clown industry has never forgiven Stephen King for what he did to them, because you'll see quotes like
He
Tim
looks like
Curry.
Bozo.
Tim Curry talking about, clowns are so comforting to children. And it's like, I think you right now don't know how much you're going to change that, because clowns are only scary now. But we've talked about that a lot. But yeah, like A Nightmare on Elm Street certainly did not invent the fear monster. Here are just a couple examples from mythology. Phobos, where we get the word phobia, the god and personification of fear. The mare from Germanic folklore would sit on your chest while you sleep, causing you to have bad dreams, night sweats, sleep paralysis.
Sleep
This
apnea.
is where we get nightmare.
Oh, I love it.
The puka from Celtic folklore. It's a shapeshifter, disguises itself based on your fear. So like Quentin Tarantino, fuck off.
Please do.
The Satanic Panic, people of the 1980s. Well, it was a time when, can you give somebody like sort of the Reader's Digest explanation of what this was?
Sure. There's just a few. Basic what it ended up doing was forcing false memories out of very susceptible children, rewarding them with your like praise for whatever they're giving you, so that they keep giving you the thing you want, accidentally creating wholly fictionalized stories about satanic cult abuse. The most famous case, I think, being the daycare case. And that ended up being completely wrong.
Yeah, this therapy is called recovered memory therapy.
Yeah.
And it's totally bunk. It's totally discredited. Like this repressed memories, that's not a thing.
No, it's not. But children who are being groomed and like, or just who are getting the attention of adults who want to keep asking them questions and seem pleased by their answers. Yeah, kids from that era would probably really crave that. So I could see them giving them exactly what they want. Yeah, but it was making people rich. I mean, like Michelle Remembers was huge.
Yeah, that was this book by this psychologist, Lawrence Pazder, and then his patient/wife, Michelle Smith, about him helping her supposedly recover her memories about experiencing satanic ritual abuse. And like with Stranger Danger, it's like, oh, the things we need to fear are our children's daycares and the things that's happening to them when we can't see them. And like one of Stephen King's insights is like, well, actually, the parents themselves are going to be the ones that often.
And even the ones that are around. I mean, the whole daycare was perfect to be the thing that was the boogeyman, because women were just starting to starting to be the norm for them to get out and work. And there was a lot of like guilt over putting your kid with a stranger. So that was the perfect boogeyman. Yeah,
so that's why something like that can take off at the time, because now it is becoming so common. So many moms have this anxiety that like still exists, but way less so. It's less common for a woman to stay home with her kids all day. But yeah, it was like society's insisting you need to feel a little something for that. So where do you put those feelings? Satanic abuse.
Right. All of our anxieties become a horror movie. And I love figuring out which ones they are when I'm watching. It's the horror movies that aren't wrapped around something human like that I get really fucking bored with.
What's an example?
Anything Rob Zombie's ever touched. Like, I just feel like it's all...
I don't agree.
Oh, well, it's sad for you. No, I don't know. I just feel like some things are just more style over substance in the horror genre. I mean, in any genre, but the shock factor of it all... I guess the Saw movies. I don't know. The Saws have their own lore. I don't have an example for you. When something isn't bolstered by something more real, it's empty calories.
I think that
it doesn't stick.
They're all trying to do what you're saying. It's just they might be more successful, or they may not.
I do feel like some movies that are horror are made just with an aesthetic in mind and not a real. Like, oh, this is a horror story. It's about a demon. And it's like, but the ones that are actually about, the ones that are demon movies that are about something else, those are the interesting ones. Like when the demon's actually abortion, or like, it's when it's allegory that it's really good.
Yeah, I agree. But I also, to me, a movie doesn't have to be quote unquote about something to be great. But
and I'm not saying that's the only thing that makes something great. That's just what makes something my move. That's what, for me,
gets her fired up.
It's what makes something stick. If I'm still thinking about it and still like drawing parallels to it after I'm talking about it in the car the whole way, you've won. You've won.
Right. Often the first time we talk about a movie is when we start recording. But this we talked about last night. We talked about it this morning. So yeah, Laci's very, very into it, which I'm glad, because when you suggested we revisit it, we don't often revisit old episodes. I thought like, okay, that I don't know, I wasn't expecting there to be so much there.
But the big difference was that the new movies had come out, and it took seeing them not get it for me to realize how much the first one understood the material. There
are tons of people who love the new It movies, and that's great. And like, so many more people have seen those than saw this one that we're talking about. And I'm sure there are people who are younger than us who are like, what are you talking about? That cheesy old TV movie that's so that feels like a soap opera. You just don't get it, man. But I think whether he intended it or not, I mean, like, recovered memory, this just accepted. You're hearing it on the news. You adults may be repressing memories that they're going to recover. I think that Stephen King definitely ingests that and is like playing with it in a very interesting way.
Yes, because it's just a way of not believing your kids, right? It's just another way of not putting the blame where it goes. So it makes total sense for him to write this in that moment, because he must also be dealing with old feelings of not being believed or not counting as a full person yet and waiting for that moment, never quite arriving there, probably in a parent's eyes. Just kicks the can down the road. It's frustrating because, like, just when they're onto something, just when there's being laws and people are starting to be believed about sex abuse, they instead say that it's like organized sex abuse, like big cells of it, different places, but it's all due with Satan, and it's not just your everyday fucking uncle babysitting you or something. We can't intrude on the family like that. That's their behind closed doors business, and it's like, no, that is what we need help with. We need a way to talk about that. I'm not being fucking ritually abused. I'm being normally abused.
What's another thing that happens to people when they start thinking about these things? I mean, I don't know exactly when his kids were born, but he is a father, and he's like, more than 10 years, he publishes it in 1986. He's more than a decade into this phenomenally successful career he could never have seen coming for himself, where he's the biggest literary celebrity in the world. His books are getting adapted. Stanley Kubrick fucking made a movie out of your book, dude.
The Glowing?
And yes, The Glowing. And you're such a powerful celebrity that you're able to publicly feud with him over it. Who are you? You're a bug. He's Stanley Kubrick. But you have that ability, and it must feel like a fucking whirlwind. And he's addicted to cocaine and he's addicted to alcohol.
I did not know that.
So it is probably like, what am I fucking doing to my kids? What am I ignoring or neglecting about the way I'm being a parent or difficult writer? Oh, dad's in one of his spaces. They say it to Bill Denbrough. His wife says, like, I wish you were just working on a novel. You're so much happier. Now you're working on a movie. In 1986, Stephen King wrote and directed a movie.
Yeah, so much of this, every character in it are just a way of him processing a part of himself he doesn't like. He probably had a mom that was a hypochondriac, maybe, or he certainly was struggling with substance abuse, and that's all throughout the adult life, right? The point of, like, I have children and I still haven't processed what it is that makes me have some bad habits. I probably should fucking work that out before I go giving them to these kids. And I can see him trying to work all of that out through the things in his books that happen over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. The wholesomeness and the bikes are there all the time because it's your first way to get away. It means you're old enough to have one, which means you're just old enough to be away from the house for a little while, and it means you can escape. And it's just, the bike makes so much sense to be there all the time.
The substance abuse constantly, because he's been writing, he writes a book every year, has been for like 50 years now. Substance abuse is constantly a thing. He eventually did get clean. But like Danny in The Shining, his dad, simultaneously, my dad has a horrible alcohol problem and I love him so much. Mm-hmm. And the ultimate monster, my dad turning into this evil creature and trying to kill me. And
not knowing when he's coming.
And then Stephen King, 40 years later, writes a sequel about adult Danny, who is an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. Interesting that these things, they reverberate in ways that
he's been trying to warn us ever since it. Like, these things, garbage in, garbage out.
Publishes Carrie in 1974, Salem's Lot, The Shining, The Stand, The Dead Zone, Cujo, Christine, Pet Sematary. A lot of his most famous books had already come out by the time it comes out in 1986. And again, in 1986, he directs a movie. Why is he directing a movie? What business does he have directing a movie?
What does he direct?
Maximum Overdrive.
I've heard of it. Is that Emilio?
I watched it a few nights ago. You came into the room and said, "You're watching Emilio?" That's what I was watching. And this movie, it's not good. It's fun. It's clear this guy doesn't know how to direct, but
Got
it's
it.
that in itself is kind of enjoyable. He said I was coked out of my mind the whole time. That's why that movie's no good. An assistant who was on set said, yeah, like 6 a.m, we'd have a roll call. He's already drinking beers. By 8:30, he's on his 10th beer. And yeah, he's just this. That movie feels like it was directed by cocaine. Okay, so it.
Cocaine Bear Senior.
There is a very, very good oral history of the 1990 It by Ethan Alter for Yahoo Entertainment, written in 2015. Look in the description for a link. Here's what Stephen King said about writing It. Quote, I've always been interested in childhood. For a while, I was the only guy around who wanted to write about children and grown-ups. William Golding wrote an introduction to his book, Lord of the Flies, where he talks about the genesis of that story. He was sitting with his wife by the fire one night, and he said to her, what would you think if I wrote a book about boys, but instead of writing a book about the way grown-ups like to remember boyhood, I write about how boys really are. She said, that's a fantastic idea. So he wrote Lord of the Flies, which is a book about children for grown-ups. I thought to myself that I'd really like to write a story about what's lost and what's gained when you grow up from childhood to adulthood, and also the things we experience in childhood that are like seeds that blossom later on. End quote. It is his intention. This is going to be my magnum opus. This is going to synthesize all the things that I am so fascinated with. I think
It's the most Ed thing he makes.
Stand By Me was based on a Stephen King novel called The Body. I think that was written after, but the movie came out before. The Stand By Me is such an obvious parallel to It. It's the It that doesn't have horror in it. But
Dead body and child abuse.
well, yes, but without the supernatural monster,
Yeah, right.
which we will cover on the program one day.
We have to. I mean, it's so many people's load bearing babe.
I think I've just avoided reading that one because I just know it's going to annoy me with all the mopey boomer stuff. So, okay. So 1986, it comes out, like all of his books, it's huge. So it's going to get an adaptation. They all do. But, at the time, TV movies were fucking huge. Roots, obviously, in 1977. The biggest TV movie of all time was in 1983. It's called The Day After, about the aftermath of nuclear war. There's like the Thornbirds with Farrah Fawcett in the 80s. And so the idea, let's do a TV movie rather than a theatrical movie that could be huge for us. And the success of it kicks off a wave of TV adaptations of Stephen King novels. We have The Tommyknockers in 93, The Stand in 94, The Langoliers in 95, and The Shining in 97, which Stephen King personally produces. So it's like, this time we can do it right. The Stand is my favorite of his books. It is a sprawling thing that would be impossible to adapt into a movie. But like when you watch the 1990 It, which is also based on a sprawling, impossible to adapt book, you can see exactly how you do it. You just need 3 hours. But ABC initially wants George A. Romero to direct. He's the Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead guy. He had worked with Stephen King on the Creepshow movies, which are all based on Stephen King short stories. And he would go on to direct an adaptation of The Dark Half, and ABC committed to George A. Romero with an 8 to 10 hour TV series, but then they reduced that number, so he dropped out. And, everything gets turned into a miniseries today that is 10 hours long at least. This would be a sort of a novel idea, but it's just so refreshing that it is just 3 hours and you're done. So Romero drops out. The screenwriter that they commissioned was Lawrence Cohen, who had previously adapted Carrie, the Stephen King novel, into the classic film by Brian De Palma. And he said in that oral history, quote, Steve was pretty much radio silent throughout the process. A couple of factors to keep in mind. First, he felt comfortable with me. We became friends during the making of Carrie, so I think he felt it would come out well too. He also had the opportunity to read the various drafts of the script as I finished them. Secondly, he was comfortable about it being a novel for television. This was the heyday of networks adapting lengthy novels for TV, and initially it was going to be an 8 to 10 hour series. Thirdly, the producers brought George A. Romero on to direct. He and Steve had worked together on Creepshow, and I was beyond ecstatic as a huge fan of Night of the Living Dead. It was going to be the horror miniseries to end all horror miniseries. Of course, life doesn't always work out the way it appears that it's going to at the times. End quote, because George Romero leaves and is replaced by Tommy Lee Wallace, the director of the film. Tommy Lee Wallace is a longtime collaborator of John Carpenter, worked with him going back to his first movie, Dark Star. He was the production designer and editor of Halloween, of The Fog, and then John Carpenter hired him to direct Halloween 3, which is an incredible movie, rejected at the time, but since everybody realizes it's a classic. It's the Halloween movie that doesn't have Michael Myers in it. It was when they were trying to make what if Halloween was just a different, like an anthology series? And it's so cool. So he gets hired to direct it. And he said that he was thrilled with the script for night one. The script was broken up into like, this is like 2 episodes of a TV show, night 1 and night 2. And the dividing point is when Stan kills himself.
Okay.
On VHS, apparently the 2 tapes were like tape 1 ended and there were closing credits and then tape 1 began with opening credits. If you watch it now, it's just like one video file and it just jumps from Stan killing himself, his wife going, ah, and then immediately you're into the next part. So you don't even really notice it. But that is like if you know that that's where it's ending and you watch the movie, you can feel like this is all building toward this shocking thing that happens. That's also like another reason I think this is just such a good script is that stuff happens at the very beginning of the novel, of Stephen King's novel. And it's such a smart idea to take this really, really upsetting and striking thing and have it happen halfway through the movie.
Well, and just it builds on the whole point, which is that the trauma affects each of them in very different ways. One of them being a substance abuser, one of them being in a physically abusive relationship, and another one not being able to cope with anything more that life has to give them, so they kill themselves. And that just to and one of them never leaving the town they were in, feeling responsible somehow for like staying in poverty, like that they needed to stay.
And getting to see them as younger kids rather than one after the other, taking some time with them as adults, taking some time with them as kids. You get to know them. What they're like as an adult has more impact than in the novel where you meet them one after another. Yeah. By the time you get around to Stan as an adult, you realize he's the kid who seems the most, or seems like the least equipped to handle all of this.
Yes, he's been the most resistant all along. The kids decide that it's him, but he didn't survive because he was the last person to see it. But the point is, he was the one that never truly bought in and felt like he could be safe because he had his friends. He did not truly buy that idea that he had people to lean on and that could take responsibility off of him. And you know that because he keeps reciting his creed as a Boy Scout, that it's his duty to defend and protect and honor and all, like it's all on him. And so Stan never lets it go because he doesn't feel like there's something to help him. He's it. The buck stops with him.
And the reciting the scouts thing, that is a thing that's external to the group.
What do you mean?
Like he's identifying himself by something that is not this group itself.
You don't mean they can't hear it. Because he's saying it out loud, right? But they're accepting of his tick because it is just a vocal tick. It's clearly his self-soothing behavior. But you're right in that it's a unique one because it is making him remember over and over again his duty. He's alone. He is responsible.
But also his life outside of the group.
Yeah.
That's going to be his anchor. It's not you guys are my anchor. It's, well, I'm a Cub Scout and I have a busy life as a Cub Scout when I'm not busy with you twerps. God, the moment where they all share the inhaler, not in the book, just such a almost teared up watching it because it's funny. It seems like a sort of weird kid thing kids would do, is like, maybe we should do some sort of ritual here. They don't even address it. They just do it.
Well, and it's the thing I always say that it's sort of facetiously, that's why the craft works. They all decide they're going to be witches. None of them are having any success as witches until the real witch comes along. But God damn it, on Monday, we're all wearing our witch shit. And that's what's fun. And when they all decide that, he says, oh, it tastes like battery acid. And then they all, even though that was said, they all then take his battery acid. And because they all decided it right then, his strength in believing that they have strength in their numbers is what melts half his face off when he says it's battery acid.
Yep.
It's like, because we believe it, it is so. It's enough. Doesn't mean fake things are real. It means what we think is real is valid.
And I guess it is just seeing these kids on screen that I buy them more than I buy them on the page, where like Beverly is a very fully formed character. Bill is a very fully formed character on the page. Richie is. Stan is like, and Stan was there too, I guess. Eddie is like There's some of them who are defined by their relationships with other people rather than relationships within the group. What were you going to say?
Well, and I think the rewrite of Mike in the new adaptations totally take away from Mike. Mike's characteristic in the new ones is he's the homeschool kid that delivers meat. And in the original movies, he is a historian who brings in, I think it's just so pointed to make the black person the town historian, or for him to have taken on that role. Because yes, his history would be way more important for him to keep himself and not be whitewashed. Here are these photos. This is the crimes of the past of this town. I'm showing them to you. I own them. Don't take them from me, you white asshole trying to beat me up at the end. And I'm going to stay here so that Derry remembers its past, and I'm going to be a librarian and I will be in charge of the microfiche, and you can't tell me that this is not what happened in this town. And they take that away from Mike in the new one, where he's just the fucking meat kid.
Well, that's just a consequence. That too is a consequence of not getting to see him as an adult, because in it chapter 2, the adult Mike is the town historian who stayed,
who loved meat.
But I mean,
but they give that to Ben. Ben's the historian in the new one. He's the one with the shit all over his walls. He's the nerd. He's reading all the books. He knows the history when they are kids.
Both of those come from the book where, yeah, Ben is the nerdy reader. Mike is the one who's like, he has this very sweet relationship with his dad who tells him all about the history of the town. Because of what you said, because of their skin color putting a target on their back. And then the power of him saying, like, this town, there are good people in it who have totally embraced us. There are bad people who have not. I own that this is my town and I belong here, and it's almost an act of defiance that I stay here.
In its face, I will stay. I have always been here and I will stay here.
In the book, he is homeschooled. That's why he doesn't know the other kids. The movie has to make it smaller so that there's basically one classroom. Mm-hmm. Also, it's weird that they're like, I wish the summer would never end. 2 scenes later, they're in school.
I know.
Because to me, it's so important that it takes place during the summer. If they're going to school, it's very strange.
Yeah, and they're wearing so many layers of clothing in the summer. But I guess I just took it to mean that the summer was still going. They just are back in school.
Right, but when you're a kid, when you are on your own during the summer and you get to your sort of development can happen the way you want it to.
Or stagnate, because you never leave your fucking room.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Night 1 and Night 2. Tommy Wallace was thrilled with the script for Night 1, but he had problems with Night 2. He said, quote, Larry had completely moved away from the plotting of the book and created a much smaller story, a very interior melodrama focusing on Beverly's husband as the ultimate bad guy, or something to that effect. I wasn't happy with it at all, but Larry didn't show much enthusiasm for a big rewrite. I asked him to come to Vancouver and work with me on the script for Night 2, but he declined. With little other choice, I turned to the best writer I could get for no money, myself. The rewrite better reflected the basic plot of the book, or as much as a radical condensation would allow, end quote. He is the uncredited final writer of the movie, and I think it's a great script. I think it's an incredible job of condensing just that sprawling mess of a novel. Mm. The adult actors were cast first. They're getting TV stars like John Ritter and Harry Anderson, and then they audition kids who they're prioritizing physical resemblance to their adult counterparts. But end up with some.
I love the kid actors, and they 2 of them become big things, or 3.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Brandis becomes a star.
Jonathan Brandis, that's his fucking name. Yes, I couldn't think of it.
Seth Green grows on to this day remains a great character actor. Then some of the guy who plays Ben is in a lot of stuff. He's in the Wonder Years.
Yes, he's so. I know him from other. I know as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, I like that guy. Eddie, I don't know from anything else, and Stan and Beverly Marsh is so ingrained in my head. As soon as I saw her, I'm like, I like that little girl. Why do I like her? Oh, that's Beverly. I was waiting for her to be a redhead because I'd watched the new one before I watched this one.
Right. I forgot to look up. Do I know her from anything else? Or is this just one of those like, oh, I know her from it. I know her from the thing I'm watching right now. Tim Curry cast as Pennywise. The other finalists were Malcolm McDowell and Roddy McDowell. Roddy McDowell played, Cornelius in 4 Planet of the Apes movies. Tommy Lee Wallace said Malcolm McDowell, quote, would have called on his inner Droog. He's from A Clockwork Orange. And the result would have been menacing and colorful, no doubt. But Tim Curry was always the name for me. Honestly, it's hard to think seriously of anyone else in the role.
Yes.
He is and was that good.
You need a theater actor. Is Tim Curry has a theater background, right?
Probably.
He just
sounds right.
He's so, you need that rubber face. And that's what he's doing here. And just the delivery of the adult in the room making light of the situation while you're going through a horrible trauma. You know, hey, is your refrigerator running? You better catch it. It's such a perfect, like, oh, are you grumpy? Did someone need a nap? Did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed? Someone's in a mood. Just the way you undermine and minimize children's feelings. And I feel like that's what he is. He's just in their face with, someone needs cheering up today. Let's completely cover the monster underneath. And you just need to fucking laugh because you're to be seen and not heard. And you're making me bummed, child.
So you got to get somebody like Tim Curry is like one of these classic English actors, like classically trained on the stage, which means, yeah, you're going to do Shakespeare and very serious shit, but it means you also have to learn to sing and like do comedy and stuff. You have to learn all of that shit. And that's what goes into wearing this giant prosthetic and being able to emote for you and be so scary. Quote, here's what Tim Curry said about playing the role he was interviewed for Fangoria in 1990. Quote, what's fun about him is that a clown is traditionally a very cozy, comforting kind of cheery image, and Pennywise is none of those things. I think of him all the time as a smile gone bad. That's my image for him. And actually finding his look was very interesting because I heard that in some acting classes, well, certainly if you go to clown school, if you go to circus school or whatever, it takes a very long time to become a clown and they won't let you put on a clown face for something like 2 years. And finding your clown face is sort of part of the exercise of learning to become a clown. Mm-hmm. We had about a day to get through this procedure.
God.
End quote. He had so many good, I'll just do one more quote. But in some ways, I think that horror movies today have gone a little too far away from the mind. I think we had a much more prosthetic version of this makeup, which was very scary looking and beautifully executed, but did too much work by itself. And I personally think that is what is most horrifying is the moment of decision behind somebody's eyes when they decide to kill somebody rather than a pint of blood and a pound and a half of latex.
Yep.
End quote.
Preach.
I think Bill Skarsgård's good as Pennywise in the new movies.
Sure.
And he is responding to what Tim Curry did, so it's gotta be different. But the CGI kind of fucks everything up.
And his delivery. I know he made choices and he went with something more sinister. And at the time, that is definitely what people wanted. But it misses the point. It's too odd. It's too untrustworthy. There's never anything comforting about him, and that's not true with Pennywise. And Pennywise is like the shark in Jaws. He's used so sparingly. Like there's not. He is at the end of everyone's vision, but it's a moment. And like they're just they don't overuse him, and you think you're going to see him, but you hear him, and when you see him, it's so brief.
The makeup was by Bart Mixon, legendary makeup artist. They said the main inspiration was Lon Chaney in Phantom of the Opera, the 1925 movie, which I have on screen. Yeah, I mean, the challenge for Skarsgård in the new movie is also like there is no more cultural association of clowns with a fun thing for kids. Mm-hmm. But you can see it in the Tim Curry performance now, though. Like, I could conceive of a version of him who's nice.
I had a clown doll. I mean, the whole theme of my room was like circus when I was, 5 or yeah. I don't know when I can remember seeing pictures of my room, but I had it bothered me, the doll, because it was wooden wrapped in clothes. So like you could feel its wooden joints and body and this just hard thing underneath like clothes. So it disturbed me because it wasn't cuddly.
Well, I mean,
but not because it was a clown.
Yeah. Versus the Bill Skarsgård clown, which there's no version, like the nice version of that doesn't exist. All right. So yeah, this movie aired over 2 nights on ABC, November 18th and November 20th, 1990. Watched by 30 million people, got positive reviews. Part 1 was much more heavily praised than part 2. The screenwriter Larry Cohen said, quote, night 1 is as strong as it is because the kids are featured so prominently and there's some amazing magic with them, just as there is in Stand By Me. Stephen King said, quote, you have to remember my expectations were in the basement. Here was a book that sprawled over 1,000 pages and they were going to cram it into 4 hours with commercials, but the series really surprised me by how good it was. It's a really ambitious adaptation of a really long book. The kid actors were good and the adult actors were terrific. There's an earlier generation who remembers watching Salem's Lot on TV, and then there are the kids who remember seeing it. Get them while they're young. That's my motto. End quote. I mean, he is right. This probably did turn on a generation of kids to Stephen King.
Oh. No, you can't trick me into reading, you fuck.
You did, though.
Okay, that's just because I'm at the library a lot. It's just access. I just kind of realized for this first time, and this is probably kind of stupid, but the fact that he's a clown, and this is why it works in 1960 and doesn't work in the 80s, is that's also the point. I'm sorry, you're going to go to your mom or dad and be like, oh my God, I'm so terrified. I saw a clown. Like, to them, they'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? You love clowns. That's like saying, oh my God, I saw a puppy in the cellar. It's like that kid can't put their finger on it, but knows that that clown meant them harm. That clown is bad. And just because he's dressed as something good, and I'm reporting about a thing you already think you know about, you're not believing my account. You're believing what you think you know about clowns.
Yeah, whereas it's 1989. I saw a clown in the town square. Like
fuck!
Ugh.
Were they trying to show you their dick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like that movie, It. Ugh.
Ugh.
One more thing before we close this very long history section is the child orgy. So even people who have not read the book are familiar with the infamous child orgy. Okay, to be fair, it's not actually an orgy. It is Beverly having sex with each of the boys one after another.
Individually.
Yeah, it's not group sex. So, I mean, are you familiar with this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the novel, it's when the kids are in the sewers and they have defeated Pennywise, but they're lost in the sewers, and the effort of defeating him has weakened their bond with each other. And the whole thing is our strength is our solidarity, but that solidarity is waning. I know what I'll do. I'll have sex with each of them. Also, because Pennywise is still here. We didn't kill him forever, but if we become adults, his power won't work on us anymore. So how do we become adults? We'll have sex. So, like, it's not, I know people joke about it. It's not a throwaway. It's a thing that is built to the entire novel. It is teased, and it's a story about leaving behind your childhood. So it's the symbolic level too. So 2013, here's what he said. Stephen King said, quote, I wasn't really thinking of the sexual aspect of it. The book dealt with childhood and adulthood, 1958, and grown-ups. The grown-ups don't remember their childhood. None of us remember what we did as children. We think we do, but we don't remember it as it really happened. Intuitively, the losers knew they had to be together again. The sexual act connected childhood and adulthood. It's another version of the glass tunnel that connects the children's library to the adult library. But times have changed since I wrote that scene, and there is now more sensitivity to those issues. End quote. I know he didn't say I wouldn't do that today. Because, like...
Well, I know you're sensitive, everyone, today.
Yeah,
You guys love that shit in the 80s, though.
I don't think it is him being transgressive. I think this is a book about really confronting all the ugliness and the humanness of life. I know don't have 11-year-olds have sex with each other.
Don't do that.
But within the book, it does make a lot of sense.
I mean, because I'm perfectly okay with how many times Beverly kisses them randomly. I believe all of it. I think it's so sweet. Who doesn't want to be Beverly Marsh, queen of the fucking losers?
And in the passage in the book, it's sweet. They all say I love you when they're done.
Yeah.
And the way it's depicted is they don't actually understand what they're doing. But yeah, just wanted to
touch on that. Touch on that child orgy.
Ooh, wording. Okay, well, that's the history of it, everybody.
Okay, I'm sure the rest of this will be brief.
Stephen King's It. We'd have an entire 2-hour conversation about the movie, discussing it, reviewing it, analyzing it, and you can hear it wherever you listen to podcasts. Just open the podcast app of your choice and search 1 Week Rental.